Welcome to One Insight. My name is Rich Litvin. I grew up in London and I now live in LA. And this is a podcast for extraordinary top performers. You see, I've coached some of the most successful and talented people on the planet. I see what most people cannot see, and I dare to say what most people wouldn't dare to say. And what I know about success is that on the other side of it, it can actually be lonely. You can feel like more of an imposter the more successful you become. And when you're the most interesting person in the room, you're actually in the wrong room. I coach around insight. Life looks one way, something happens, the world looks different, and your entire world changes. It can happen in an instant. And this podcast is called One Insight because a single insight can change everything.
You know what I love about coaching the most is that I don't know what's going to happen in any one moment. I get on this call today and Lauren wants me to talk to me about intuition and how I use intuition in my coaching. And Anthony wants to talk about the guilt that he has of being a high performer, that he's never quite where he wants to be. And for a moment, I'm wondering how on earth are those two separate conversations going to come together? Well, I love coaching one-on-one, but I've grown to love coaching more than one person at a time, because in that moment of silence, when the other person is being coached, there's a real opportunity for insight in a way that sometimes very intense when all the attention's on you. And here in this conversation, you'll hear insight after insight. As I'm coaching Anthony, Lauren's having the insight. I'm coaching Lauren, Anthony's having the insight. It's a really powerful and fun conversation. Enjoy. Hi, Anthony. Hi, Lauren.
Hey, Rich.
Hey. So we're about to begin a coaching conversation, which means that we get to chat, and maybe at some point I'll mess with your thinking. I coach around insight. I'm not interested in helping you get 17 steps into action. And I'm looking for the one moment where life looks this way. And then because I ask a question, because you see something slightly differently, it shifts ever so slightly. And when your view shifts ever so slightly, everything can change in that moment. Sometimes you know exactly what you need to do. Sometimes you need the power of what I call gentle reflection. And we come back week after week and talk about it if we're working together over time. But that power of one single insight really fascinates me. So we'll see where we go and see what occurs in this conversation. No pressure on me to create an insight and no pressure on you to have one. But I tell you that because that's the frame through which I see this conversation. Lauren, what would make this a really powerful coaching conversation for you today?
So I just wanted to take a moment to thank you. When we were first entering quarantine, many of my clients were pivoting their companies, and it was one of my most focused times, but it was very high pressure. And you created this environment of emotional support. And I really appreciate the work that you did. You know, you created a space for hope. So thank you for that.
Hey, thank you. I'm really touched you say that. Yeah, if I'm really honest, I was afraid a year and a bit ago. The world was changing. I still remember going out to put the trash out the back of my house and feeling like I was in one of those zombie movies. Like, who are these people who are infected and what does it mean? And I was a little bit scared. And the moment I caught myself, and it took a month or so, and it was my wife saying, "What's going on? Why are you so scared?" And I was like, "I'm not scared." And then after a while, it dawned on me, and maybe she's right. And I realized the only way out of that is to be in service of other people. And I spent a few months really being in service, more powerfully than I've been in for many, many years. And it allowed me to relax, and it made a real difference to my life. And then thanks for acknowledging it. I know it made a difference to a lot of other people too. So I'm glad you're here, and we get to be in conversation right now, in a coaching conversation. Mm-hmm. How can I support you in this moment?
So one of the things that I really grabbed onto that you say is intuition is high level pattern recognition. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I think one of the gifts that you have is to be able to articulate difficult concepts. So I'm interested in maybe having a conversation a little bit more around intuition, using intuition during coaching.
Nice. Okay. Interesting. I like that. All right. Let's see what Anthony's got, and then we'll see how we play. Hey, Anthony. What would make this
Rich.
a powerful conversation for you?
I I've been feeling a lot of guilt around not being where I should be, or trying to take on more in the coaching space with the new coaching business, and trying to upskill and learn and develop and grow. And life is really full and busy and amazing. And I'm definitely, I'm really in love with my life and everything that's going on in it. It's like I'm just constantly comparing, chasing, and trying to get better all the time. And I think the repercussion of that is that I just carry this guilt that I should be doing more, creating more, growing more. And I'd love to get some insight and some clarity around that.
Nice. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Lauren, can you relate to that? Do you know that feeling?
I think so. You just magically appeared on my Facebook page is how I feel. Like I found you. Obviously that didn't happen. I somehow connected with you before, but one of the questions I remember when we were starting last year's intensive was, what do you want to do? And that was my question. Is I have this drive and this pull to do something larger in the world, but I am also a mom, and that comes a high priority for right now. I can unleash myself after she's left for college, but as of right now, I have found my answer. So it took me about a year, but I got it.
It's interesting. That happened to me too when I became a parent, because there's a reason we're on this call together, right? I draw to me people who are talented, ambitious, and driven. Those are the people I love to work with. And I spent a lot of time reflecting on the guilty secrets that run us that other people don't see. We get acknowledged for our accomplishments. So Anthony, I told you I was looking at your website before this call. I saw what you were doing at 25 years old. What do you call that? I don't know what to call it. It's not gymnastics. Is the name?
It's competitive aerobics.
Okay. That actually doesn't do it justice.
Yeah.
Because it looks like you were doing some of the most incredible gymnastics I've ever seen. So Anthony's incredibly talented, Lauren. And you're doing that at a young age. And then you went to work at Moulin Rouge, is that right?
Yeah. I was a can-can soloist in Paris at the Moulin Rouge.
How many male can-can soloists are there?
Oh, there's only 2 in the show. So it's, and then when we get old or injured, they kind of rotate us in and out, but there's only 2 at one time.
Right. So look, let me do, let's do this. I'm doing several things at once here. Let me talk to you if you are watching or listening right now, as if Lauren and Anthony are not here. I've got this amazing tool I use. It's a remote control. I'm going to put them on pause as if they can't hear me or see me. And I'm going to talk to everyone who's listening and watching. So I want to work with Anthony around this guilt he feels about there's always more, there's always a place where he should be and he's not there yet. I want to talk to Lauren about intuition. And I want to model for you who are listening at the same time what I'm doing. So I'm going to use Lauren's desire to learn more about intuition in order to work with Anthony. And we'll see how that works. So the reason I'm talking to those of you who are watching and listening is I want to show you I'm tracking at least 3 levels deep right now in how I'm doing this work. And if I was working just with Anthony and Lauren, I wouldn't put all my thoughts on loudspeaker like this. But it's kind of fun to be able to let you behind the scenes and show you what's going on. So I'll press pause again on the remote control as if we bring you back into the room. So Lauren, what does your intuition tell you that Anthony needs most right now? Not your thinking, just gut intuition.
So what do you need right now?
Okay, so pause, because I know because you repeated those words, you're giving yourself space to think. No criticism, by the way, but I'm telling you what I'm seeing. And that repetition of those words gave you a little bit of space. I put you on the spot, right? And it was challenging. Here's what I want you to do. In one moment, look at Anthony and tell me the first word that comes to mind. Random word, whatever it is. Okay, go.
Permission.
Okay. Anthony, what does that mean to you when you hear that word?
Permission to get it right, to get it wrong, and to go at my own pace.
In your previous careers, was there space to get it wrong?
Not so much. I put a lot of I had to win. I had to produce a result and get a certain score. So getting it wrong had a really big impact on my desired result.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? There's no way you could have been as successful as you were if you didn't push yourself. I've got to win at any cost. Now, I also know that you must have failed along the way. It's the only way you win. But your tendency was to look at winning as the thing to do. And I've got to be, it's one of the ways you become very, very successful in what you do. And you do some extraordinary things that not many people on the planet will ever be able to do.
Mm.
So, Lauren, see, this is how it occurs, this idea about intuition. I like to call it high-level pattern recognition. The moment I asked you the question, you went into your head, you wanted to think. When I said, give me one word, it came out. There was no hesitation. Here's the truth about intuition. It doesn't matter if you got it right or you got it wrong. So watch this. Hey, Anthony, when I put my attention on you, what comes to me is an image of a red London double-decker bus. What does that mean to you? How's that relevant to what's going on for you in this moment?
Journey. It's the bus represents a journey, and I'm on a journey.
Huh. And is there an insight behind that about what that means for the journey? Either because it's a bus or something else?
Because it's a form of transportation. That's where I went with that the bus represents getting from one place to another.
And what would be valuable for you? Would it be getting off the bus? Would it be finding a different method of transportation?
Staying on the bus.
Huh. So let me pause Anthony for a second, Lauren. I deliberately chose something so random, it was not related to, I wasn't trying to use intuition. I wanted to show you that it wouldn't matter if I was wrong. If I tried my intuition out, because I say it's a red bus, I see it and I'm thinking of you, and he goes, oh, no, it's not a bus. It's actually a high performance sports car. Or it's more like a bicycle. Or you know what? It's not a bus at all. It's not a vehicle. It feels like I am stuck in the middle of a field and I'm calling out and no one can get to me. So where I've learned to play, or how I've learned to play with intuition, is to just play with intuition with no attachment to being right, and then watching what happens. And it looks like Anthony got an insight from this random thought I brought in around a red double-decker bus. He's nodding right now. Well, what do you get from that as we talk about intuition, Lauren, for yourself?
So I do something somewhat similar, and I've already asked for their permission to share this story. I'll just have numbers 1 through 10, and then I'll have a word association when I call out a certain number. And one person did something interesting, which is all positive association for even numbers, and then a negative association for odd numbers. And after looking at all of those, I'm looking for patterns. I told her that, and she said, well, I've always felt like the odd man out. Mm-hmm. And then another person associated 0 with 1, and then everything positive after that. So I said, that was interesting. And he said, yeah, I feel like without being in a relationship, I don't have value. So it's very fun to do different tools and activities like this. And if there's anything that will help me get to that negative narrative as quickly as possible, I want to play with it. So if you have other tools, I'll take them.
I like it. I love it. Look, what you're illustrating for me is that this thing we call coaching, there's a game behind it that we can use. And we're experimenting all the time. That worked really well with those 2 clients. You'll meet someone in a month's time and it won't make sense for them and it won't resonate. But the power of coaching is that we've got all these tools in our tool belt we can pull out. And if they don't work, then let's not be attached. That's the gift that we can bring our clients when we're not attached to it. So one of the things I like working with is metaphor. I listen very carefully to the language that my clients are using. So when they say, you know what, it feels like I'm in the front of a racing car, but I'm not driving, and the person next to me is driving so fast that it's scaring the hell out of me in this situation. Because then I'll play with the metaphor instead of just saying, oh, that's an interesting metaphor. Okay, well, if you really were in a racing car and the person next to you was driving so fast it was scaring the hell out of you, what would you do? And they always know. But we live into these metaphors without realizing we can play with them too. So that's one of the tools I love to use.
What about you, Anthony? Do you have any specialties
Or
there?
let me ask you, what's a metaphor for your life in this moment?
Ooh, I don't know. Now I'm on the spot. Metaphor for my life. I don't know. I feel like I'm just constantly learning right now. I don't know. I need help.
No pressure. You can't get this right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
What I heard you say is, I've got these big desires for all these things I want to accomplish, and I'm a mother right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually consciously taking, there's no metaphor here, I'm just consciously choosing to spend time with my family, because that's a really high value for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not trying to trick you here. Acting like there's some kind of game I'm playing. I'm leaving the metaphor for a moment, because it wasn't one that came up for you, and just want to acknowledge where you are. It sounds like this is where you're putting your attention in this moment.
Yes, very much so. Making sure that my priorities are in line with what I feel my full purpose is to life, not just what my work is. So adding all of those pieces into it.
So the purpose of being a mum, the purpose of being a coach who makes a difference to clients' lives, all of this comes together for you. That's really important to you, right?
Very much so. I try to live very intentionally.
What I hear behind that is you have a really high value on learning. You never want to stop. Even on this call, you're about to ask Anthony, like, hey, what about you? Do you have a tool that I can have? There's this incessant desire to learn more and more.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I feel like there's pretty much nothing that you can accomplish if you don't bring in the right resources. So I love to just curate knowledge and then bring it out whenever someone needs some support.
Let me ask you an interesting question. Who would you be if the learning had to stop?
Very unhappy. I would be very unhappy. I think I would have more of a fixed mindset than a growth mindset if I just stopped learning.
Anthony, let me ask you about that. What do you hear when you hear someone say, if they had to stop learning, they'd be really unhappy?
When you asked Lauren that question, my answer that was in my head was really present, because just existing in nothing, just in that moment. So my experience of not learning doesn't necessarily mean not growing. It's just super present, and it's not a negative.
Yeah, it's a beautiful distinction. I love that you got that. So it's not that there's anything wrong with learning, Lauren, and it's not that I have any desire to stop you from learning, but a bit like you can probably see in Anthony, where he has this guilt where he's not where he should be, that whilst life is amazing, he's constantly comparing himself and chasing and looking for what's better. It's easy to see where we sit over here, where if he could turn that down, he'd probably actually be more present and more powerful because of it. Well, he sees that in you because it's always so much easier to see it in other people.
That's so true.
Yes, I completely agree to that. It is so hard to have my own reflection because I'm constantly putting different judgments on it and how I should be and what I should be doing.
So what's interesting for the two of you to see is one of the reasons I love to coach more than one person at a time is if I'm just coaching one person, Anthony, we could be talking about this guilt that you have and desire for more and more and better and better. And you kind of get it. You ever had a coaching session and you kind of get it, but it's just so intense. But when I'm coaching somebody else, it means it's much easier to see. You got it in an instant. Oh, Lauren's desire to keep learning, there may be as much as it's a positive, there could be a way that's holding her back. And Lauren, you can get, as you look at Anthony, like this desire for more and better is amazing. It's had him have all sorts of accomplishments in his past, but it might hold him back from the real success in the future. And this is why I love to work with more than one person at a time, because it gives us the space that we can see what we can't see in ourselves. 3 mysteries to the universe: birds to the air, fish to water, and humans to themselves. Anthony, what do you get? This guilt you have about, I'm not where I should be. What's an insight you have around that in this moment?
I had a really beautiful insight just before seeing myself in Lauren, and I really want to be present. So that constant chase and that feeling of guilt, I'm missing out on that. And just like he said, had Lauren not been on the call, I wouldn't have got that. I wouldn't have seen myself having a very similar struggle to her in a completely different looking scenario. So I just, I'm missing out on the present moment. And that's what the guilt is causing. And I don't want to be that. I'm going to be a dad in like a week and a half. And I don't want to be that person of missing out on all of those moments.
Yeah. I love that. That's very powerful. I remember saying to one of my coaches years ago, Anthony, I just want to be more present. And he said, when do you want to do that, Rich? In the future? So mazel tov on the upcoming birth of your baby. And
thank you.
Yeah, I'm a dad, Lauren's a mum. So it's a life-changing moment. And it's also, I get acknowledged for the presence that I can bring to a client. I know that's one of my gifts, but boy, my kids are meters for assessing how present I am. Hey, Dad, you're not here, Dad. You're checking your phone, Dad. Dad, why are you on your computer? Dad. And so they really are a great way of having you be present. Get ready.
Oh, so excited.
I'm pleased for you. Hey, Lauren, what's one takeaway you had from this, but particularly around intuition, which is where you came in, and then around yourself, any insights about yourself?
So intuition, just keep playing with it. I don't have to be right or wrong with it. It's just throw it out there, see what happens. As far as being a parent and being present, I've learned, and I'm no parenting expert by any means. It's just I've learned what's worked for me is being emotionally available, not necessarily always in the room, but when that emotion comes up, to be there for that. And as far as the personal side of it, I think this constant desire to learn stops me from maybe speaking out on what I have already acquired. So maybe that's where I'm holding myself back.
Nice. One of the distinctions for me, Lauren, is in creating versus consuming. Where you've been sucking up knowledge for your entire life. Let's have it be some space for you to start to share that knowledge and wisdom with the world. That's going to make a real difference. The best book you'll ever read is the book you write. That would be really fascinating to watch you on that journey where you can start to share these tools and insights and knowledge with others. Now, years ago, when Steve Chandler and I wrote The Prosperous Coach, well, before we wrote it, we were doing events together. And I'd come off stage and Steve would say, that thing you taught, Rich, that was an amazing idea. And I'd look at him and say, but you taught me that. But it had come through my filter of my ideas, my thinking, my language, and it sounded completely different to him on the other side. So all this wisdom is inside of you. Let it come through the Lauren filter. Your people need to hear it.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Thanks for trusting me. Thanks for playing with me. This has been really fun.
So good. Thank you so much, Rich. Really powerful.
Thank you.
For most of human history, it wasn't called coaching, it was called leadership. And it's what I love to do, to coach people, to lead people, and to mess with people's thinking. If you'd like more of this, or if you'd like to learn more about our community of extraordinary top performers, go to richlitvin.com/oneinsight.